Good afternoon and welcome to the Alex Urbina radio show. We're broadcasting live from Newhall, California. And in studio, I have a special guest. His name is David Cantrell from American Family Funding. Thanks for hanging out with me today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Today, we're going to talk about the benefits of having a life coach.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know anything about life coaches, but you're going to be my guest and have a little dialogue about that.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sounds great.
Do you have a coach?
I do.
You have several, don't you? Is your wife one of your coaches?
Apparently she is.
Right. And if you haven't decided, I'm sure she's
definitely
decided
has.
for
Yes,
sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if you've never had a life coach or been coached, just imagine having somebody that is really committed to having you win and is going to share some opinions or some observations about maybe some of the areas that you still need improvement on. Mm-hmm. That's not really really taking things personal. They're just kind of neutral, and they're like your best friend sitting side by side, except they're not there's nothing that is having them say anything specific to you to be liked by you. So they're freed up from trying to be your friend. So they can say things to you that maybe you haven't been wanting to hear, or maybe something that you've been ignoring for a long time. But they can say it in a loving or a neutral way so that it really lands and that you hear it in a way that you go, I probably have known that I've been a little bit difficult to work with or been difficult in this area, but to hear you say it to me in the way you say it really landed for me for some reason. A little different than the way my kids say it or my wife says it or my boss or whatever.
Right. I think part of it for me, one of the biggest things was you have to honestly be open to be coached. It makes me think about, when you're talking to your kids and you're telling your kids you should try these lemon pepper chicken McNuggets, you're going to love them. And they're like, no, I want the regular ones. But then their friend says, hey, you should try these. And they try them. And they come back, hey, these are great. And you're like, I know, because they weren't open to hearing it from you.
That's right.
But so that's why when you open yourself up to a coach and say, all right, now you're hearing it from somebody else that you can really listen to, that you've asked for and given them the permission to say, hey, I want you to take a look at these things and give me a different perspective on it.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because as a life coach, as a profession, there are things that I noticed about certain people. I call them coachable. Mm-hmm. I've given them that title because there's certain people that are coachable and there's certain people that are not coachable.
Right.
And neither one is good, bad, right, or wrong. It's just an observation, right?
Right.
So for me, people that are coachable, there's certain traits that they have. They're really open-minded. Mm-hmm. And when I say open-minded, because most of us, when we say, oh, I'm very open-minded, but there's certain things that you just block out.
Right.
There's certain things that you're just like, well, I'm not. Because once you start challenging someone, they're like, yeah, I probably wouldn't do that. And it's like, well, then you're not as open-minded as you claim you are. But you really have to be open-minded. You have to be open to allowing somebody to step into your space and then open up some possibilities or make some suggestions or share their opinion or, talk about specific topics that you're interested in or that you want to improve on.
Right.
And then you have to really be open to the possibility that this can help you.
Right.
Because if you're not open to it, it doesn't matter who's sitting in front of you. You can have the Dalai Lama sitting in front of you, giving you all this beautiful wisdom, and it's just going to go in one ear and out the other ear. So you really have to be open-minded to consider yourself coachable.
Right. I mean, it's one thing. Most people will say that, I'm open to being coached, I'm open to therapy, I'm open to whatever it is. But I think a lot of people go into it thinking they just want validation for what they're already thinking. And so when they hear something that's not on their, spectrum, they kind of turn it away because they're not really looking for that. What they're looking for is, this is what I think. I want somebody else to tell me I'm right. Right? Instead of going into it saying, you know what, I'm challenged in this area and I need help. It's the asking for help that's the tough part.
Are you sharing that from experience? Can you sometimes acknowledge or see yourself that when you come to a coach or when you're asking for support, can you acknowledge that you are sometimes looking for validation, that the way you see it is right or the way that you see it is the best way?
I'll say this, that there are certain topics that I believe that personally I'm very open to being coached. I think that there's part of my personality that, listen, I'm a 55-year-old man, and it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. And there are some times where I'm just too set in my ways that I don't know if I can ever get over that hump, but I keep trying. Because I'm coachable in one area, I hope I'd be coachable in another. But there are some times that I look at it and I can't get to where I know that coach wants me to be. But the one thing about it also is I appreciate that the my coach understands that and says, okay, we'll work on this other stuff. This one will come sooner or later. We don't need to handle everything right now.
Right.
Let's work on the stuff that you are coachable on, and then maybe that will feed into this possibility over here, thinking, okay, I've done all of this on this. Maybe I should start working or taking a look at this part too.
Which opens up the possibility that your coach has to be flexible.
Correct.
They have to be willing to kind of roll with whatever you're willing to take on today, as long as you're willing to take on something.
Right.
And they're not fixed on, no, let's just do this now because I've decided that you need to have a breakthrough in this, and it has to be now.
Right.
You can't force somebody to have a breakthrough if they're not ready.
Right.
So as a coach, you got to go, okay, well, what are you open to? And then kind of do the little dance and figure out, okay, if this is what you're going to give me, then this is what we're obviously supposed to be talking about today, and having the breakthrough in this area.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about seeing you as someone who's very coachable is that you're willing to call yourself out on things, which is an amazing attribute to have. I call it telling on yourself.
Right.
It's like when I work with clients, I'll have them come in. I'll say, your job is to tell on yourself. And they'll go, what do you mean? And I'll say, well, you come in and you go, I know you gave me this advice, or we together came to the conclusion that this is what my homework was going to be, or this is what I was going to take on this week. But I got to be honest, I didn't do the homework. Right. The reason why I didn't do it was because I made other things more important. Like, I really appreciate as a coach, you being honest and open and telling on yourself. And so earlier, it was almost like you were giving people an example of what it's like to tell on yourself when you say out loud, sometimes I don't want to go down this road. And so, and maybe I should, but sometimes I just get stubborn and I just don't want to.
Right.
It takes a lot to be able to look at yourself and then raise your hand and actually call yourself out in front of anybody as well as a coach. And I think that's important because you're not hiding. Like, a coach can't help you if all of your stuff is behind the curtain.
Right.
You have to be willing to open the curtain and go, okay, buddy, here's what I got.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know I got it and I know it's in my way, but it's and maybe someday I'll hear it in a specific way, or maybe it's I'm ready to hear it, but this is what I got and I'm not ready to hear it right now.
Right. Well, and I think it's interesting because one of the things that I've learned going through this process is so many times, and so many people that I've seen, that I've talked to since I've been going through this, everybody looks at asking for help as a sign of weakness or being weak, because I need help because I can't do it. That's a sign of weakness. When in fact, what I've learned, you have to be really confident with yourself to say, I need help. It's really hard to do that. But if you have the confidence to say, listen, I can't get past this, I need help, that's one of the most confident things you can do, because you're opening yourself up saying, listen, I know I'm good in this area and I know I'm good in this area. This one I'm having trouble with. I need somebody to help me with this. That is just so empowering to yourself to be able to say that. And I think that's what kind of stops some people a lot of times, keeping everything behind that curtain, because they're like, because I'll tell you, when I first started coaching, I went into it with, I don't need any coaching. I'm good, man. My mind, I'm totally good, because I guess I started coaching about 4 years ago, and I was like, I'm fine. I don't need it. I'm good to go. But the company I was working, American Family Funding, was offering it for free, and I'm like, all right, if it's free, I'll sit down with the guy and what the heck and see what happens. And from that first conversation going forward, I started realizing that I wasn't as good in my mind as I thought, and there were definitely certain areas that I could use some help in.
Now, what do you mean when you said I wasn't as good? Because I don't want people to think like, I don't want them to use the words good or bad.
Okay. All right. So
you were realizing through a conversation with the coach is, okay, that makes sense, right? Or, okay, I never saw it like that. So was it more like you were getting in a dialogue, you were having certain perspectives that were being open to you that you couldn't see before?
I think it was that up until that time in my life, I was always the problem solver. I was always the one that solved all the problems for our family, for a lot of our friends, for work. I was the guy that kind of handled all of the problems. So then I said to myself, well, I don't need help. So I'm the problem solver. I don't need somebody to help me. But then I started having a couple of challenges because I had a change in my life and I was having some struggles. And I really didn't know where to go or what to do with it because I was so used to handling it myself. And then when I sat down and talked to the coach and I finally just kind of opened up and said, all right, here's an area of my life that I'm having a little struggle with. And that just opened up this, it's like a journey of 1,000, miles starts with that single step. When you take that first step and say, here's an area that I am being challenged in, I could use a different perspective or help or some kind of motivation or something that when you and the key is having a really good coach help you see that it works. Now you're like, all right, well now I can now let me take a look at myself and see, okay, is there other areas that I haven't really been thinking are challenging, but maybe they are a little, maybe I've just put it aside and just not dealt with it because I didn't have the tools to deal with it at that point.
So it's almost like, all right, you helped me through one thing, and I saw some results. How about this one?
Yeah, exactly. Totally. It absolutely.
Let's see what you do with this curveball.
Yeah, there. Now try this and see how that works. Exactly. And so when you constantly see it when you and it does go back to that kind of homework thing. And part of that homework is taking what you're learning from your coach and applying it to your real life. And when you see that happening and you see it working, that's when you start. And then it becomes kind of a different attitude of, I can't wait to talk to my coach because not only do I want to tell him that this is working, now I can say, you know what? I'm kind of having problems with this one. Let's go after this now and see what happens.
Sounds good. So I want to just break down and point out a certain distinction. Your coach, if you decide to have a coach, will help you see things that you can't currently see in the present moment.
Correct.
And I think that is tremendously valuable because if you're only able to see 5 or 12 different options from the position that you're standing in, when you look to your left and you look to your right, if you have a coach that's standing there that points out another additional 5 to 12 options that you can't see, and they just all of a sudden come into they just appear out of nowhere. Boom, 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 boom. And you go, oh my God. Now I have 24, 25 different options that I can choose from that I couldn't see before.
Right.
Is that valuable?
Yeah, absolutely. And something I also want to say is, don't think of it as not, being, you're not seeing those things because you're being, you don't want to look at it. It's literally, you just didn't think of it that way. You just didn't see it that way. And like you said, it's not good, bad, or wrong. It's just I didn't look at it that way. And now I'm like, oh, wow, I never really thought about that. And so that's really where, a good coach can really be valuable is you guys, you're trained to look at that stuff. You have that power, that training, that teaching, that you've done this for a long time. And so it really does help to, I just had no idea I could look at it that way.
Yeah. And so all of a sudden, if you have this coach that's able to see it the 6th, the 8th, the 12th, the 20th way, what starts to happen is you start to pick up their eyesight.
Correct.
And you now start to see it 8, 12, 15 different ways, but not just in one scenario, but you start to see multiple perspectives in all other scenarios moving on past that. It's almost like if you start hanging out with a certain guitarist and you're a novice, you're a beginner guitarist, but you're hanging out with this, this superstar on stage, and all of a sudden you hear a certain thing, and you're like, let me try that. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you're playing, and your sound is similar to his or her sound.
Right.
And you just, by virtue of osmosis, of being around that person and hearing and learning certain words or distinctions and framing, you're spending time creating new framing around the way you look at the world. All of a sudden your perspective starts to shift and it starts to grow and broaden.
Absolutely. I mean, there are times in every day, when I'm doing something, I'm sending an email or I'm getting ready to call somebody or I'm getting ready to talk to somebody. I have it up on my whiteboard in my office. Are there other possibilities? And so I take that 1 second to stop and think, okay, is there another possibility here? Is there something else? And then maybe there's not. Maybe, what I'm thinking is the way, but at least I take that moment to say, okay, is there something else I should be looking at here? And just doing that in itself is, like you said, is now you're seeing another vision. Now you're seeing things a little bit wider, and having that moment to go over it is very important.
And in case you're wondering, like, what's the benefit of seeing certain situations in multiple ways? So let me explain it to you. If you're only able to see a certain scenario in 4 different ways, then you can only make 4 different choices that cause 4 different results. Mm-hmm. If you're able to see a certain situation 12 different ways, now there's 12 options for you to choose. Now you can make 12 different choices that cause 12 different results.
Correct.
So that's the benefit of having somebody that can create a different way to look at something. And I've always told people, personal power isn't really anything magnificent other than perspective shifting. Mm-hmm. If I can teach you how to see your life and see situations multiple ways, then you're learning how to shift your perspective.
Right.
Because sometimes you cannot change the actual outcome.
Right.
There's certain outcomes, if not most outcomes that are outside of you, are out of your control.
Right.
You can't make something be undone.
Correct.
You can't make a certain situation. You can't go back to tomorrow and change the choice.
Right.
Just your results are your results. But what you can change is how you see it. Mm-hmm. And if you change how you see it is where personal power lies in. And it changes, once you see it a different way, it changes the meaning you give it.
Right.
And then when you change the meaning, now there's a different feeling that comes with that meaning.
Right.
Because prior to that, a lot of times we see certain situations and that meaning we give it has a negative connotation, which brings an ill feeling to it.
Right.
All of a sudden you sit in front of your coach and your coach spins it on you. And you go, whoa, what are you doing?
Right.
I say, well, can you see it like this? Can you see it like that? Could it possibly look like this? And then all of a sudden you go, oh, man, get out of my office. Because
Right.
I was enjoying swimming in.
Exactly.
I was enjoying swimming in the pity and the sorrow and all that stuff until you came around and started to show me a different way to look at it.
Right.
And so your coach is there to show you a different way to look at it that's more empowering.
Right.
Which opens up the possibility that could some of us be addicted to feeling sorry and, down and out and having pity and having attention and having the focus on swimming around in the pity party that we like to create for ourselves.
Yeah, I tell my wife sometimes that there are some of our friends and some of our people that we know that I always say they're only happy when they're unhappy. It's
Right.
like they need that. But one of the other things I also wanted to touch on is that when you bring up you're looking at things only four possibilities or 4 different ways. A lot of coaching deals with you interacting with other people, right? Your kids, your family, your wife, and things like that. And so what my coaches also helped me look at is, if I'm looking at, I think there are these 4 possibilities, these 4 outcomes, but the person that I'm dealing with has a completely different idea or a completely different way of looking at things. If I'm not open to that, then that's when you get the butting of heads. Whereas if you start, like you said, opening up to different possibilities, now you can talk to, you can interact with that person on their level with what they're thinking. Our company actually said that, the golden rule is treat people the way you want to be treated. But we've actually expanded that to calling it the platinum rule of treat people the way they want to be treated. But you can't do that if you're stuck in those 4 ways of thinking. You have to be able to open up and meet them on their level, the way that they're seeing things, that then you guys can work together to get to where you want to be.
Absolutely. I like to also point out, or paint this picture that sometimes, if we took this in a sports model, as let's say you're a baseball player and you are a really good hitter and you're hitting base hits or line drives and home runs, and all of a sudden you get into a slump. You can't, as the batter, you can't see the mechanics of your swing.
Right.
You need and you rely on your coach that's sitting on the outside to observe, okay, what's missing in my mechanics? What's shifted? What has changed?
Right.
And your coach from the outside says, it looks like your elbow's dropping. And every time you swing, your elbow starts dropping, your shoulder drops. What's going on? And so then now you start, maybe now you put up a video camera, mm-hmm. or your coach videos you, and then you go back and you replay it, and you're like, oh, now I can see that something has changed in my swing, which is causing me to now foul tip or strike out. And so your coach can see things that you can't see, not because they're better than you or they're, they're more evolved than you. They just have a different point of view. They're just looking at it from a different angle.
Right.
And that's why sometimes even our friends that are sitting there and they're giving us this advice, and we don't want to take that perspective or at least consider it. And so when I work with clients, a lot of times I'll tell them, your job when we're sitting with each other and having a dialogue, as I open up these possibilities, your job is to not try to agree or disagree with what I'm opening up for you. Your job is just to be open to, could that be possible?
Right.
That's it.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you can start with, could that be possible? Tomorrow, when you wake up in the morning, you're going to go, oh my God, now I can see it. Mm-hmm. It might take you 24 hours or 48 hours for could it be possible to all of a sudden you can see it.
Right.
But if you don't even see it possible or you're trying to agree or disagree, there's no new breakthrough. There's no new awareness.
Right.
Because you're trying to, it's like, convince me that what you're saying is true or not.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I'm an old broken down athlete, but I've been coaching for a long. I coach pole vaulting at the local high school, and I've always thought it interesting that when it comes to athletics, and I'm glad you brought that up, everybody gets a coach. Everybody's looking for that next coach. Everybody's looking for that coach. And I'm always curious as to why in that area everybody wants to be coached, but when it comes to their personal life, they're like, no, I don't need any help here. It's like, well, it's still coaching. And like you said, it's still somebody looking at things differently than you're looking at. You can't, it's hard to always look at yourself and say, I need help here, I need help. It's just somebody else looking at things differently, and that's what coaching is. And a good coach does that for you, whether it's, baseball or whether it's in your life.
It's a great point. We'll come back right after the break, right here at your hometown station, KHTS.
What if you could wake up without the burden of owing over $10,000 in taxes to the IRS or state? Call the trusted name in tax resolution, Anthem Tax Services. 866-630-2694. With over 30 years of experience in tax preparation and tax law, we are ready to negotiate your tax debt and reach a settlement that makes sense for you.
Anthem saved me nearly $17,000 and settled my debt with the IRS for just $100.
Call 866-630-2694. We are the only company that is confident enough in our services to offer a 100% money-back guarantee if we can't put you in a better position than where you started. All you need to do is call for a free consultation. 866-630-2694. You may even qualify to save up to 99% off your tax debt. Call Anthem today and we'll also take care of your tax case study for free, saving you hundreds of dollars. 866-630-2694. 866-630-2694.
We all know sometimes people lose their way. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, the Way Out Recovery SCV may have the answers you've been waiting for. The Way Out is the premier intensive outpatient treatment center serving Santa Clarita. Asking for help is the first step. Call The Way Out today, 661-296-4444. That's 296-4444 for a private free assessment. The Way Out is an accredited, affordable outpatient program that accepts most insurance. Call us at 661-296-4444 or check us out online at thewayoutrrecoveryscv.com. Quit battling with yourself. Ask The Way Out for help today.
This is Bradley Gross from Santa Clarita Grocery. Santa Clarita Grocery serves fresh groceries to families, individuals, and those experiencing homelessness. At Santa Clarita Grocery, out of every dollar donated, a full 99 cents goes directly to the needs being addressed. As an all-volunteer-led organization, we operate on a 1% overhead, receiving no government funding for our operations in the community, resulting in us being one of the most efficient charities in the Santa Clarita Valley. If you're looking to support the good for our community, please consider partnering with us by donating to Santa Clarita Grocery. What is donated is specifically kept in the Santa Clarita Valley, helping over 3,000 families, including 5 other community charities. Please visit our website, santaclaritagrocery.org, or visit us on social media or call us at 425-7575. That's 425-7575.
Marston's Restaurant has been a Pasadena landmark, voted the best breakfast in California by the Food Network magazine. Discover Marston's Santa Clarita location, open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Marston's also has a fantastic catering menu that adds a delicious twist to any event. And they cater picnic dinners for that memorable romantic date. Experience Marston's on Newhall Ranch Road and McBean, or log on to marstonsrestaurant.com.
Hi, Santa Clarita. This is Rosemary with Beyond Harmony Med Spa with some great news about Kurt Stinson. Now, why am I telling you about a plumber? When I had a horrible plumbing situation at my house, Thanksgiving morning, house full of people, of course I called Kirk. He rushed right over, took care of our problem. The prices were so reasonable, I couldn't even believe that I was paying that on Thanksgiving Day. If you need a plumber, Kirk Stinson is the guy to call.
Plumbing by Kirk, 263-6519, or visit plumbingbykirk.com.
Hometown, your hometown station.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the Alex Urbina radio show. Today we're talking about the benefits of having a coach. Today joining me in studio is David Contrell from American Family Funding. And the next thing I wanted to talk about is when we talk about your coach, if you have a life coach, your coach should be committed to you winning either as equal or as greater than your commitment to yourself to finding solutions for you, to assist in helping you find solutions. A life coach their job isn't to tell you what to do. It's to be an assistance to open up possibilities, more like devil's advocate. Well, have you thought of this? Or could it be possible that this might happen? Or, and it's really just to brainstorm ideas with you.
Right.
To the point that you go, hey, I like that. And then you decide to own that as your own, or you decide to test it or implement it tomorrow. Or, you know what I mean? It's more like we're just throwing stuff out there. We're having a dialogue about discovering new ways, new possibilities that maybe possibly you haven't seen or never thought of before. Maybe you tried in the past and it didn't work, but maybe it might work now. So it's a little bit sometimes of convincing each other. But it's a cool little dance. If you've never been a part of it, it's an amazing collaboration of finding solutions that may or may not support you. And a lot of it's trial and error. You have to test some of that stuff, right?
Right.
However, if you test some of it and you actually hit pay dirt on one and you go, oh my God, this works, it validates how valuable having a coach is to open up that dialogue, to create those breakthroughs, because you couldn't have done that on your own.
Right.
Otherwise, you would have, correct?
Right. Oh, totally. Yeah. When I first started coaching, and I remember it like it was yesterday. My coach came into my office, sat down, and he just said, "So what do you want to talk about?" You know, and there was no agenda there. It was like I said, well, what do you want to talk about? You know, and it was a conversation. It wasn't because I had created this story in my head that, you know, coaching would be a lot like therapy or something where, you know, I would come in and they would say, okay, well, you need to work on this, you need to work on that. And it wasn't that at all. Like I said, it was really just more a kind of a conversation. And then what it really turned into for me was, and the reason why I would tell people to you know, coach especially with my coach, is it became that freedom of, okay, I can tell this guy anything and he's not going to judge me. Right, because when you talk to your boss, you talk to your friends, you talk to your wife, or even you talk that, you know, they don't have the skills or tools necessary sometimes to have that where you can kind of open up and just have different possibilities pointed out, because they're coming from their own agenda, right? And where a coach doesn't. A coach is, like you said, committed to you winning, and so really wants to help you down your path, and is not really worried about their path at all. But I will tell you that there were some times, like you said, when you have to try it out. When I would go home and I would try out some of this stuff, and my wife would say, "Hey, don't try that coaching stuff on me, Jack. That ain't gonna work." You know, and
she could probably tell because it was unorthodox.
Yeah, it
wasn't like, Dave.
Yeah, no, it was like,
hey,
what?
Yeah, where's
this
that
coming from? She's like, okay,
you're using words that you normally haven't used
exactly.
before. Yeah,
exactly.
And your demeanor is shifted too. Right. It's not the same, and so And I'm sure people in your family, when they start to watch some of the course correction or the conscious choosing of how you're going to be in a specific moment, it probably startles them a little bit. It's a little bit kind of like, is this really you? Are you pretending? Are you faking? Are you just telling me what I want to hear? You know what I'm saying? I'm sure in the beginning, right?
It definitely, there was a couple of times when they were looking at me like, huh? You're coming, what are you saying? Because you're right. Because I was a problem solver and I was very black and white. My life was, like I said, black, yes or no. There was no gray area. And then when they started seeing that I was kind of open to a gray area, it definitely startled them a little bit. And I'd be very honest with you. We had my wife and I had a conversation a couple of times of, are you really doing, is this really you? And I would say, you know what? I kind of feel a little bit better. And a key to it is that they buy it in. They're like, hey, well, all right, if it's working for you, that's great, And so, and they've accepted that now, and they understand that's there are certain, and trust me, there are certain areas where I'm still very black.
Oh, this is me. I'm gonna take this to the grave.
Yeah, there's certain areas where this is just
someone wronged me 15 years ago, and I ain't never forgiving them.
Exactly. So
I'll forgive everyone else, but not them for what they did.
Exactly. So there are certain, but there are other areas where I'm definitely a lot more open, and again, seeing some of that work or some of that stuff that we've worked on working in my life and making a difference and making me feel different has been extremely valuable.
I think as human beings, unconsciously, I think we expect people to be who they've always been.
Right.
So if you've always been, pessimistic, and it's like, I've just grown to love you and I've accepted you as being pessimistic all the time.
Right.
God forbid you change.
Right.
God forbid you have, you got a soft part in your heart where you just go, I don't like being like this no more. I'm just going to show up differently, or I'm going to choose differently.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're not as pessimistic anymore, and you're a little bit more encouraging, and all of a sudden, and it makes people go, what's going on? Are you okay? And I think that if we teach people that being human is having permission to constantly change depending on when we decide that I want to change, and it's okay to.
Right.
And I notice this a lot in relationships. When we first get into a relationship, usually when we're young, right? We fall in love with somebody, or boyfriend or girlfriend, we get married. We're usually in our 20s. For some of us, it's in our late teens.
Right.
But we just assume, and we've been with each other for 3 to 5 years, and it's like, okay, this is just who you are. Now I put you in a box.
Right.
And God forbid you all of a sudden in your 30s go through this midlife crisis, or in your 40s you have these life-changing events, and now you want to become this enlightened cat, or you want to evolve. It might force me to have to look at, well, maybe do I have to change too?
Right.
So there's a lot of times I have to really walk couples or individuals with their partners in this growth change, because for 10, 15 years, none of us have changed.
Right.
We just tolerated each other's stuff
Exactly.
and decided to love you because that's just who you are. And
right.
You're this mean, grumpy guy, and I'm this cynical lady. And we just accepted each other. But if we decide to change, there's a win-win in there somewhere where we can create the space for each other to grow. And what's funny is that what I've noticed is once one partner starts to grow a little bit, the other one, as much as that they're like, well, don't get me to try to do none of that coaching stuff, they kind of grow with you just by being around your growth process.
It kind of goes back to what you said about the osmosis,
yeah,
right? That sooner or later, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
That when you start coaching and you start opening up your possibilities, when you take that home and you start opening up possibilities there, it's the same situation as when the first person sits down with that coach. That they're going to come along a little bit because they're going to go, he seems a little bit happier. That's not an accident, that's happening.
Have you noticed some changes in your wife just by osmosis? Little subtle ones. You don't have to tell us what they are, but have you noticed that there's a shift just because you decided to grow and take yourself to the next level?
A little bit.
Okay.
I'd say a little, but I would also say with my kids. My kids too, that I've seen them kind of opening up a little bit more as I've opened.
How do you notice? Do you notice just changes in the words, the way they frame it? Yeah. More attitude is kind of shifted, they're more relaxed rather than being defensive.
Yeah. More open to conversation, more open to things like that. And then seeing them interact with their friends on a different level is where I see it also kind of coming through.
And that's what I love, because you're a father, and this is a great way to father your kids, is by virtue of modeling it. It's not like you're telling your daughter, hey, maybe you should approach it like this.
Right.
They're just, by watching you in your interaction with them, they're just taking it on. It's just becoming now a part of who they are as their character, and now you're watching it just happen, but without you telling them that that's what they need to do or should be doing.
Can I tell you a story?
Of course.
So
we love stories here.
Okay, good. Well, because this is one of those see the results kind of thing. That when I was first coaching with my coach, I had to take this big test, and I was scared to death. I hadn't taken a test in 20 years, and I'm like, I don't really know how to study. I don't know what to do anymore, and things like that. And this is the now other possibility thing. My coach said, well, your kids are going through school, right? And I'm like, yeah. He says, well, why don't you ask them for help? And again, I'd never thought about that in a million years, right? Because I'm like, I'm the dad. I'm not going to ask the kids for help. And my kids at the time were, I think, 16 and 17. So I did. I took that advice, and I went home, and I said, guys, I got to take this test, and I don't really know what to do, and I don't know how to study and all that. And so in my head, I made up a story that they were going to think, oh, God, Dad doesn't know what he's doing. He's, and they were going to, and man, they both just said, all right, Dad, this is what you need to do. You need to get yourself a highlighter. You need to get yourself some flashcards. We'll work on some flashcards. We'll go. And they gave me all these study habits, but it was also watching them be empowered by that was unbelievable. And I think that's, again, going back to, that was like one of the first things that I saw them start opening up, because they're like, God, Dad's asking me for help. I must be valuable. I must have a lot of information. That's unbelievable. And I just saw them blossom out of that. I
bet it put a huge smile on your face.
Oh, it did. It was unbelievable.
And you were like, I can give this gift for free the whole time.
Exactly. I was like, oh my God. And I will tell you that I passed the test with flying colors because of them, because of their help.
That's awesome. And I'm sure you let them know that.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely cool. Did. Yeah, yeah. It was great. And it was, but that's my point of, I never saw that possibility, not because I was, not trying to. It's just I just didn't have the skills to do it. And when my coach opened that up to me, it had this unbelievable, ripple effect that was bigger than just. I'm sure that my coach wasn't thinking all this was going to happen. He was like, "Why don't you just ask your kids?" But it just blossomed into something much bigger than that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So again, when you're open to hearing new possibilities without listening from I agree or don't agree, you can see it as, could it be possible? Mm-hmm. And if you start with could it be possible and let it marinate, all of a sudden you're going to notice that you're going to go, well, let's see if it's possible. And then you're going to try it. And then you're going to surprise yourself, because you're going to create a new result that you could never have been created prior to having that new awareness. And so a lot of it is self-awareness. I look at it as an introduction to self-awareness.
Right.
At a higher level. Because I'm sure before you met your coach, you knew Dave better than anyone else knew Dave, right?
Right, sure.
But there's a whole nother level of knowing yourself. I mean, like a conscious level of why did I say that? Mm-hmm. Why did I choose that? And where was I choosing from? Was that from fear?
Right.
Or was that from trust or love? Or
right.
Like you just living your life in the question is what living conscious is. But it's a whole journey of another level of self-awareness. And that's what one of the benefits a coach brings, is helping you develop a whole new level of self-awareness that you didn't know was possible.
Right.
It's like, you've been living with yourself for 40-some years at a level 5 in self-awareness, not realizing that past 5 was just a whole infinity number of levels of really just understanding what's the mechanisms that really has Dave choose what Dave chooses.
Right.
Or the fears that comes up for Dave that stops him, or the limiting beliefs that come up that get in the way of, like, why can't I believe that this can be done, and so forth.
Right. And something that, and it, sometimes it's just such a little thing, because it was not so stringent, but I was a my way or the highway guy. Right, because I thought I was a pretty successful guy. I thought I was pretty smart. I thought, so I didn't really think about other possibilities, because I knew that what I was doing obviously was the right thing to do. And then somebody gave me something that, and again, it's just this little thing, and you can look it up on the internet right now. There's a guy standing, there's a 6 or a 9 sitting on the ground, and there's one guy on one side saying, no, this is a 6, and there's the other guy saying, no, it's a 9. And I know, and they're both right, and so that to me I just saw that, I'm like, oh my God, that's so possible, right? And so every time I get in that situation of, where you're right, I start thinking, is that possible? Is there another possible way?
Can it be a 9?
Can it be? Yeah, exactly. Can it be a 9? And it's like,
and how can I see it as a 9 the way that he or she sees it?
Right. Because that was the thing, is I looked at that and I was like, it opened me up to seeing there was different possibilities. But when my coach saw it, what he told me to do, which really kind of then, again, mind exploded, was, no, what you have to do is walk over and see it from their perspective and see why it is a 9. And that's where it's like, okay, now I have to do this shift of, it's not just me saying this, it's I'm talking to somebody, and so I got to open it up to their possibility too. Kind of back to, how do they want to see things? How do they want to see it? And try and see it on that level too. Now, there might be times when you're going to agree to disagree, and that's okay. But at least have that, like you said, is it possible?
Well, it's funny sometimes in practicing how to see it as a 9 or a 6 from the other person's perspective. There's a part of me sometimes I'll say to the other person, I now can see why you see it a 9.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
From my perspective, I can see the 9 and the 6.
Right. Yeah.
Can you possibly see the 6?
Right.
And then now it opens up them to have to look at themselves and go, no, I still see it as a 9.
Right.
Then I'll say, all right, then we'll see. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. We'll take
Tomorrow's
a look at it tomorrow.
a new day, yeah, because...
And then you just go and change the picture.
Yeah. And then it becomes my job to try to open up possibilities of why you see it as a 9.
Right.
Could it be possible that you only see it as a 9 because of the way you grew up?
Because of other things.
Could it be because of your social conditioning? Could it be because of the negative experiences you've had? Could it be because... And so now if I can open up all these other possibilities that they can't see of how it is that they're stuck on only seeing it as a 9, now if one of them clicks, they go, that would make sense now. That I only see it as a 9 because of this past experience when I was 12 years old. Okay, great. Now let me explain to you how I can see it as a 6 from having the ability to see it as a 6. Right. I see it as a 6 because of this, because of that, because of this, because of that. And then they go, oh. So it's really just about constantly cracking that nut, which we call our brain.
Right.
And just keep cracking it until it becomes open to all possibilities.
Right.
That's where personal power is. Can you be open to all possibilities? Not just the way you see it.
Right. Exactly.
Because if it's just the way you see it, then you get to be right about the way you think it is, and then there's no other possibility for growth,
right,
or different kinds of results,
right?
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about, and we'll have to do this after the break. But when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the things that get in the way of being coachable.
Okay.
Some of the things that, now when I look back, before I was getting coached, before I had my aha moments, my breakthroughs, or had my coach, my mentor. There was a certain way that was just rigid. And as I started to really kind of reflect back on my own things, plus picking up certain distinctions of people that have been uncoachable in my 25 years of coaching people, there's some common things that I've noticed, and I wrote them down. I want to talk about those because if you're listening and some of that strikes a key for you, it'll let you know whether you're coachable or not. And then by deciding whether you're coachable or not, we'll let you know, well, maybe this is why I keep getting the same results over and over again, and I feel like I can't get past this hump because maybe I'm not coachable.
Right.
And we'll do that when we come back from the break. Stay tuned for more of the Alex Urbina radio show right here in your hometown station, KHTS.
Santa Clarita, bedbugs are taking over our city. They've invaded our homes, our businesses, and most importantly, our sleep. If you have suspicious bites that appear nightly, or have a bug that you need ID'd, your best option is to make one call to All Pro. We offer a 100% guarantee that your bedbug issues will be solved with heat in one treatment. No need to tent or spray your house with chemicals. Heat is all you need. Call 661-298-2200 or text me a bug picture to 661-645-0540. It's time to sleep tight again, SCV.
Who says nothing good happens after midnight? Denny's is best known for their breakfast served round the clock, like the Grand Slam. But you can enjoy breakfast, lunch, or dinner in a casual atmosphere 24/7. At Denny's, the lunch and dinner menu has a variety of appetizers, craveable burgers, salads, and entrees, along with the best desserts in town. Wherever you live in Santa Clarita, there's a Denny's close by. If you're pulling an all-nighter or don't feel like cooking, get into Denny's today. Good stuff is happening at Denny's.
The end of the year is often the time to reflect on accomplishments and look forward to goals for the coming year. If your 2020 goals include advancing your career, learning something new, or working towards a degree or transfer to a 4-year university, College of the Canyons is where you want to be. Quick, convenient 5-week sessions begin January 6th, and there's still time to register. Visit canyons.edu/schedule now. You're going places with College of the Canyons.
At iLead Agua Dulce, we believe the most important thing a child can learn in school is who they are. Life's real tests are never standardized, which is why we've developed an individual-based curriculum that values exploration, cooperation, and creativity. As our learners grow, so do we. Our tuition-free charter school is currently enrolling grades TK through 7th and adding 8th grade in 2020. Your young learner will be immersed in a unique environment where possibility and self-discovery are at the core of every experience. The Agua Dulce campus features beautiful indoor and outdoor spaces for hands-on inspiration, including a robotics lab, a garden bed, a greenhouse, and a technology-based exploratorium. iLead Agua Dulce is conveniently located on the east side of the Santa Clarita Valley, just off the 14 freeway. Check out our homeschool options, too. To schedule a campus tour or learn more about our programs, visit iLeadAguaDulce.org. We're enrolling now. iLead Schools. Free to think, inspired to lead.
Your hometown station, KHTS.
Welcome back to the Alex Urbina radio show. We're broadcasting live from Newhall, California. I'm in studio with David Contrell from American Family Funding, and today we're talking about the benefits of having a life coach. And if you missed any segment of the show, we've talked, the first 2 segments all about, some possibilities of growth and what are some of the benefits of having a coach, what could be some of the challenges, what could be some of the breakthroughs. We didn't really have a format. We just kind of flowed with it. I thought it went pretty well.
Yeah.
But I really want to talk and take some time to talk about what could be getting in the way of seeing the value of having a coach.
Right.
And so I thought about some of the stuff in my rigidness, before I had a coach and for my journey of personal development and self-awareness. So I wrote down 5 different things, and I kind of want to just throw them out there and see what you think. So why most people don't see the value of having a coach? Number 1, I don't like being told what to do, what I should do, what I should be doing, what I shouldn't be doing, what's good for me, etc. I think most people live in the illusion that like a coach tells you what should be happening or what course correction needs to be made, rather than just having a dialogue and opening up a possibility and just throwing it out there in the air, right? Not like, so like if I was coaching you, it wouldn't be something that I would throw at you for you to catch. I'm just blowing a bubble and letting them float. And then you get to go, I like this one, and you're going to grab it, right?
Right.
And I think most people think like, I'm not going to pay for somebody to tell me what I should be doing.
Right.
You think that's the common belief that people think when it comes to
absolutely.
coaching?
I think that's totally, that's one of the biggest ones is that I kind of like with me going back to like, hey, I'm fine. I don't really have a problem. I'm happy. I don't really see. So why do I need a coach? You're right. I don't need somebody coming in here telling me I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I think that's huge. Definitely a big reason. And again, the value of my coach is I always felt he was very conversational. It wasn't you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Like you said, it's, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And so it's letting me find things that way that again, putting the possibilities out there that I had not really thought about. So it wasn't so much of, you should ask your kids about doing this, asking them for your help. It was, have you thought about asking your kids? And so it's kind of like, it's saying the same thing, but just in a different way.
And that's why it's important. Words are important.
Absolutely.
And the way that you use the words to articulate something to land for the other person is important too.
Absolutely. And it's a skill.
It is. And what I've been practicing is how to say certain things multiple ways.
Right.
So when you're saying, you should do this, it's almost like, could it be possible that? Have you ever considered that your kids would like to?
Right.
Or maybe your wife is seeing it from, so it's like you're saying the same thing but 8 different ways to try to get you to hear it in a neutral way, as though it's a bubble being blown out, floating there.
Exactly.
Rather than a dart that I'm throwing at you that actually sticks and causes some pain.
Right.
Right. Have you pull it out going, hey, why are you throwing darts at me?
Right.
Because once, as a coach, if they perceive you as throwing darts at them, there's not going to be a second session.
Right.
And I'm sure I've had millions of those, because I get, there's a lot of first sessions where people just don't decide that I'm not their coach, or I'm not the coach for them, or coaching's not for them, or for whatever reason it's not a hit.
Right.
We just don't click, right?
Right.
All right, here's number 2. Number 2, why most people don't see the value of having a life coach. And I wrote down, I believe that my life is good already. It's good enough. And therefore, there's nothing that needs to change.
Right.
Until ... what?
A big change happens.
until something comes like that curveball that we don't anticipate.
Right.
And then all of a sudden now my phone is blowing up.
Right.
Right. All of a sudden and especially for me being, a teen expert and a conscious parenting expert, I'll have parents that'll call me. Oh my God, my son's 19. This is what's going on. Meanwhile, I've known this person for 5 or 6 years when their kids were teens. And I've been marketing to them to have their kids come in and do some powerful transformational self-improvement work when they were younger.
Right.
Like introduce them to self-awareness and leadership development and conscious thinking. And they're not biting for, $150. But all of a sudden now their son's facing, criminal charges, or they're in rehab now. And so now they want to leverage, $250,000 on their home to bail their kid out of jail, or try to pay me to come now and save the day.
Right.
I think people don't realize that it might be good now until all of a sudden you realize you don't have the tools in your tool belt to handle what's coming down the pipeline.
Right.
But if you get ahead of that and start developing a solid framework and really consciously create your paradigm in a way that you have developed these tools, so no matter what comes at you, you're able to work on each problem and solve it.
Right.
And for me, I look at it as getting a life coach. Your coach's job is to help you become a better leader. To at some point you become now the coach.
Right.
It's funny because a lot of my clients are actually coaches, but they never in a million years would think themselves to be a coach.
Right.
It's like I never realized that I'm good at it.
Well,
and it's like you just become good at it because you became a great student of coaching, right?
Well, I think a good analogy is insurance, right? We have homeowners insurance. Our home may never catch on fire ever, but we have the tool there that if it does, we're ready. And having that life is there when you get those tools when everything is fine, means that when something does go wrong, you can handle it right now rather than down the low road when things get worse.
Yeah, but insurance only costs me $30 a month or $150 a year, and then someone else is going to fix it for me. If I got to go to a coach, I got to put effort. I have to be willing to change. I have to be willing to look at myself. Well, it's worse than going to a dentist, I think, for some people.
Well, no kidding. It totally. But it is
it's a game for warriors.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
It's a game for warriors.
Yeah.
All right, here's number 3. Why most people don't see the value of having a life coach. I don't like change.
Yeah.
Number 4, I don't want to pay. Some people will not pay for their own personal growth. Right. But like you said, they'll pay for,
what happens afterwards.
Yeah, the gym membership, fees to store their mobile home and all that good stuff. And number 5, I don't want to improve my relationships. It's fine the way it is until
the curveball.
Yeah, until she says, beat it, buddy.
Exactly.
That's all the time we have. Thanks for joining us on the Alex Urbina Radio Show right here in your hometown station, KHTS.